Hey everybody, it's Master Gallengeist here, bringing you my review of My Hero Academia Season 4 on Toonami. And I really enjoyed this season because it did a good job of splitting up two good arcs that flowed pretty well together. The Hasaikai arc of the Yakuza group headed by Overhaul, and then the school festival arc that kind of did a nice kind of breakdown because that Saikai arc was pretty awesome and intense, and we haven't really had a kind of lull kind of arc yet. Now, granted, there was some stuff going on in the festival arc that was working and let us off for the kind of next big thing, but it was a nice kind of ebb and flow for this season. So it starts off, and we get more kind of introduced to Mirio Togata, who we'd seen previously in like season 3, and he is in a work study with All Might's former sidekick Sir Night Eye, and we get their kind of backstory, and we had seen that Sir Night Eye can see into the future, but mainly with things that he's kind of like come in contact with, or people that he's come in contact with as well. And it only goes kind of like to a certain distance, but he had the thing that All Might was going to die, and he didn't want All Might to kind of do these kinds of things anymore, because if he kept going on this path, he was going to die. And All Might was like, I can't do that. I got to keep doing this, and that's kind of what resulted in their schism. And of course, Midoriya doesn't know this, but he wanted to get some introduction to him, so Mirio took him there. We see him do his kind of thing as Sir Night Eye gives him a test, and he ultimately fails, but yet he still allows him to do the work study anyway, because he sees that there's plasters of All Might posters throughout the whole room, but Midoriya was able to, he was taking care to dodge them. And a big kind of contentious thing is that Night Eye thinks that All Might chose wrong, and that Mirio Togata, with his kind of ability to kind of phase through things, would have made a better candidate for one for all than Midoriya. And it's like, okay, we'll kind of have to see how they kind of do that. So the work study kind of works in a way that they kind of go out and patrol, but they're working their way up to doing things like that. And we see that Mirio and Midoriya, they work really well together. I really like their interactions there. Granted, they are very similar characters, but there are distinct differences. Midoriya is more of a kind of analytical kind of dude. Not that Togata doesn't, but he's more of the kind of he does more kind of stupid things and is kind of a little bit more airheaded. Not that Midoriya doesn't do stupid things too, but it's kind of like a different kind of a thing. So it's not like two of the same characters doing the same thing. But incidentally enough, they're on their first patrol and they're looking out for the Saikai group, because Night Eye's been hearing rumblings and wants to kind of mess with this group. Because they've been like messing around with certain things, and they bump into Overhaul, who is the leader and doing all these kind of things, while he's out with Eri, who he claims is his daughter. And Eri kind of wants to get away, but she's afraid that Overhaul will kill them, so she goes back with him. And we of course see that this deeply affects Midoriya and Mirio as they relay the information and they start learning more about what's going on. And while this is kind of going on, we see that Shigaraki and the League of Villains did meet with Overhaul, because Overhaul wants to start moving more forward with his plan and wants to pretty much use them. Shigaraki's like, you can suck my ass. And of course, some fighting ensues. They lose one of their members, and one of their members gets shot with a bullet that negates their quirk, and he also loses an arm, because Overhaul can like deconstruct and reconstruct things. Like, he's one of the people that follows him in the group was like killed and then reconstructed by him. He is an insanely powerful kind of dude. And we learn throughout all this that he is using Eri, whose ability, as we see as the rest of the heroes get the bullets, is using with her cells, her quirk, which she's able to rewind time, and it's really kind of, she does not have it fully under control. Now, we are explained that this is more of a mutation quirk rather than a naturally kind of occurring quirk. Fuck. And it's led to some differences with her. Like, we see that her thing, what happened is that with her quirk, she rewound her father out of existence, and her mother's like, screw this noise, and like one of her relatives is the head group of the Hisaikai Yakuza, but he is pretty much being put in like a coma by Overhaul so he can initiate his plan to use Ares' quirk to make bullets to negate quirks, so that way it kind of makes more of an even playing field. Take quirks away from heroes, sell them a bullet that'll give them their powers back and shit. It's like, shit. Because he really dislikes what it has done to the Yakuza because of what the Yakuza was able to do for Overhaul. And I was like, I kind of understand that. But he's going about it completely crazy ass way, and he's fucking doing this shit to a little girl, man. Fuck that noise. Holy shit. And you really feel for Eri because he manipulates her so cunningly of like, whenever someone's trying to do something for her, it'd be your fault if anything happened to him. And it's like, Jesus Christ, man. Fuck you. So, once they get that information, Mirio and Midoriya are really pissed off. Shigaraki's kind of in the background, comes back in, like, alright, we'll work with you to send his group in, but of course they're not really doing it. They're waiting for the opportune moment to fucking kick him in the ass. So, they mainly have Himura and Twice kind of in part of their group as they're, like, messing around. But we see that they're looking everywhere to kind of find the kind of base to do everything. Sir Night Eye is pretty much the dude running point on this, even though they get various hero agencies to come in. We see that this one hero dude is working with Red Riot, Kirishima, hardening quirk dude, and his kind of stuff was pretty good. He had some nice arcs in here. We learned that he didn't stand up to a villain at one point when he was younger, and it really affected him, and he wanted to be a better hero as he's like training under Fat Gums to become that better hero. We see Sue and Uraraka coming into play as well, as they are part of that group and, well, part of another agency work study program, and they're like, wow, they're brought in this, and they're like, holy shit. So they're able to figure out Ares' caretaker. They initiate their raid on the Hisaikai, and it's fucking epic. We get a lot of kind of just battles going on as Midoriya and Mirio and Night Eye are going in to try and get Eri out. And they first think it's going to be not straightforward, but Night Eye knows where she's at. They go in and we see this one dude's able to kind of like mess with the whole kind of atmosphere, like not the atmosphere, all the walls and all that kind of stuff. So we see Fat Gums and Kirishima has to deal with two of the Yakuza group. That was pretty cool. We see Sun Eater dealing with another couple of group, and his battle was really kind of cool, and seeing him kind of deal with how Mirio pretty much helps him to be a better hero, even though he's pretty much afraid of like almost everything. He doesn't want his friends to get hurt and everything, and really works well to utilize his quirk to take on these crazy ass little bastards. But they keep shifting down, and we see that of course Himura and Twice are like shown up at one point and are kind of fucking around with the Yakuza people because their whole deal is to kind of like fuck with their shit, as we see Overhaul's trying to escape with Eri and dealing with the rest of them. But eventually Mirio and the rest kind of get separated, and he's trying to go after and get Eri, and he gets really fucked up and severely wounded and gets his quirk taken away because of the bullet. And this is a pretty nasty battle for that to happen with, because he gets some good shots in on Overhaul, but once that happens, because he chooses to protect Eri as much as possible, and of course this is freaking her out. She's like, people are getting hurt, and it's all my fault. And she's like, I'm like, Jesus Christ, man, this is getting crazy. But of course Midoriya and Night Eye are able to kind of get in there at the point while everything's going on up top. It's fucking nuts. Sir Night Eye gets severely wounded, and he sees that he's gonna die, and Midoriya is gonna die, and he's like, that's just fate. But of course Midoriya is like, screw that noise, and because he's trying so hard, and even though he's getting injured, Eri's like, that's it, I'm going, because the League of Villains had pretty much used the hero battle up top to get like this giant kind of hole to get down to the basement level. And of course Overhaul's trying to kind of get out of there, but Eri decides to jump and latch on to Midoriya. and of course she's freaking out, so her powers are going into full effect, and if Midoriya is not careful, she can rewind his ass out of his existence. So his plan is to unleash One For All completely at 100%, so that way her quirk is essentially healing him as he's going nutso on. Well, he's not going nutso. He's tactically taking on Overhaul. As Overhaul has been using his like subordinates and combining them with himself. That was the freakiest thing. Is he's like going nuts, like fuck this noise, and that was just epic. And you could say that Midoriya's kind of look during this battle was kind of inspired with like Dragon Ball, with how the energy was kind of going off, but he just goes after Overhaul and is able to. He's like, all right, I have to knock him out, and delivers this fucking A punch while still looking out for everything around him in the area to make sure it doesn't hit or hurt anybody. And like, yeah, he's going to be a big one. He's going to do good. And he's able to take him out, and then of course he's still kind of going crazy, but they're able to get Aizawa and get Eri kind of under control and everything. They had to get her out because Midoriya is kind of exhausted beyond all point, and she's starting to kind of like take him out, but they're able to get her under control, and we see that her horn kind of is important to her powers as well, as it like grows with what's going on, but as it shrinks, it's tied to her emotional state too. It's like, okay, cool. And we see that they take Sir Night-Eye to the hospital. We see that Mirio is dealing with the loss, and that Night-Eye is surprised that Midoriya was able to essentially destroy that future that he had seen and come out alive. But of course, Sir Night-Eye is dying. He's able to say that Mirio will become a great hero with one of the last things he saw as he dies. It's like, shit. And there's kind of a reconciliation with All Might, but not what you kind of would have wanted. And after this, we see that they had arrested Overhaul, but of course Shigaraki gets there and says, you know what, fuck your noise. Takes both of his hands, and it's like, holy shit, yeah, Overhaul's fucked up, but it's like, that's not justice. This dude doesn't give a shit. Takes the bullets and everything, and pretty much leaves him quirkless and everything. It's like, wow, okay, that's some pretty heavy shit. What are we going to do with the next arc? So, then the last half of the season deals with the school festival and kind of getting Eri acclimated to kind of a better kind of life, because she hasn't really smiled. So Mirio and Midoriya want to make it their mission to like give her something to smile about. So of course the school festival's coming up, and of course their class is like, we've been kind of giving trouble for all these people. Everybody's gonna live on campus. Everything's going nuts. So how about we kind of do something cool for the festival? And they decide to come up with a concert going on. I was like, okay, that kind of works out pretty well. We'll have to see how that works out and seeing everybody doing their thing. Of course, Midoriya trying to learn how to dance, which is funny as shit. And Bakugo, of course, is on the drums like, we're gonna kill it! Kill it! And them kind of dealing with that and working that out did pretty well in giving like all these different kind of characters different kinds of moments to shine. So that way they can have something to do. It doesn't, you know, that the first part of the season was heavily focused on like Midoriya and the rest of the people in the work study. Then we shift and we see all the rest of them kind of coming together to do everything with the festival. We see Bakugo and Todoroki dealing with their provisional licensing things, and we see that the Kami chick, who of course was actually Himura in the whole provisional licensing exam portion, come in and she's like, oh, this is kind of interesting. I really liked her character. And like, we actually got to see her this time. I was like, interesting. And they had to deal with like kids and everything. It was like really nuts because they were fucking hellions. Granted, I understand. I take it as a nuanced approach to kids as possible, but this was like a group of like, they knew what they were doing, and they're like, we will be better heroes. It's like, sweet Jesus. And I'm like, you don't want to do that. I don't know if you've seen much of that Bakugo kid, but that is not what he usually responds to very well. He's like, I'm a boom. And everyone's like, no, you can't. No, don't do that. But how they got to like figuring out with those kids was actually really cool, and I liked seeing Todoroki kind of like do his own kind of thing, figure out what was going on. So the big kind of villain in this one was a gentle criminal. Now, granted, he is kind of a villain, but not really. I would more classify him as an antagonistic force rather than someone trying to actually be a full-fledged kind of nasty ass motherfucker. He's been trying to. We get his backstory and the backstory of his sidekick, La Brava, and it was really kind of affecting because these are two people that have really been negatively affected by superhero society because of how society kind of treats them. Because La Brava, her quirk is based on love and stuff like that, and when the object of her affection, if they can get his power up from her, we see that during a battle between Midoriya and Gentle. She had confessed to someone in middle school, and they were mean kids to her about it, and she just pretty much became a NEET and shut in and everything. I'm like, God damn, that sucks. And then she saw Gentle doing his stuff and became fucking obsessed with him. Granted, it's like, holy shit, you need to kind of help people out with this stuff. That's why that kind of support structures and mental health is important. So that way you can help people out of that stuff and not let them get sucked into these kind of things. And then we see Gentle is not, even though he takes the fall for it, he is not a complete and utter asshole. We see him as a younger person. He has an interesting quirk, but he just wasn't able to get through the provisional licensing and everything. He tries to help someone, but it ends up hurting him instead. And of course, it causes a thing with his family. He gets thrown out, and after high school, he said hi to someone that he used to go to high school with their own hero agency. He's like, who are you again? And of course, this throws him into nobody's gonna remember me, and just he wants to make a name for himself, and that's why he becomes Gentle Criminal. But the thing is, it's not really a kind of villain thing, it's more a vigilante thing, as he tries to make videos and try and get his name into the history. And his thing is he can make anything pretty much elastic and kind of bouncy. I'm like, dude, you could have really worked out pretty well of making a kid's house kind of thing. And I'm like, you'd be doing awesome. And I'm like, why the fuck isn't anybody using him? He could help catch people and shit. Because his battle with, and then also fighting, because his fight with Izuku, because he was planning on going into the sports festival and messing around there. Not really being an asshole, but just mainly getting in, because if there's even a hint of anything, an alarm or whatnot, it's being canceled completely, and of course, Midoriya wouldn't be able to help Aries smile. And he's going out to get some rope, and of course he runs into Gentle Criminal. He's trying to stop him. And they have a pretty good fight. And now it's more of a psychological one, even though Midoriya is using some new kind of techniques that All Might's been helping him out with, of using One for All by, at the moment of release, popping up to 20% and using these gloves that the support class character had made for him. It's oh, okay. But the thing is, they both wanted to be heroes really badly, but Midoriya is able to be doing that, and of course Gentle decides to give up after seeing his resolve, and even after having been powered up by La Brava, he's able to kind of go down, and the thing is, Gentle throws him out and turns himself into the people policing around UA, and tries to take more of the fall for what was going on with that. And the thing is, they see that La Brava is really good at computers and everything. It's like, you can be doing any of this stuff. You'd be a real asset. You should have a career on lock. What are you doing here? It's like, she loves Gentle and wants to help him. And then, of course, one of the other police officers is like, hey, it's a good thing you turned yourself in. It could have been a lot worse, and you could probably come out better for this. And you want some tea? He's like, yeah, take some Earl Grey. He's like, you'll take whatever we have, kind of thing. It's like, I hope that they're able to get through, and that eventually they team up with Midoriya someday, because that would be a really kind of cool ass thing to do, and I would really like them to be helped, and because they could be really great heroes, and that's a really kind of cool thing to have with an antagonistic force, because it doesn't always have to be a mustache twirling villain. There can be nuance where there's these people can be good guys if they're allowed to be. It's like, holy shit, that's what's always so kind of cool about certain things that happen in Naruto and the in Dragon Ball. You eventually see certain villains become heroes. You see Vegeta's turn. You see Piccolo's turn. It's like, wow. They become almost completely different. Then of course you also got Frieza, who's he's an ally that will fuck you over. You just have to know that. But these villains are a little bit different than we had been introduced to, and it's interesting to see what they're going to be doing with them later on. I can't wait to see. So, Midoriya is able to get there on time, do his whole dance thing, and is able to kind of work out, is able to see the festival with Eri and Mirio, and he's able to make a candied apple for her because she'd always, that's kind of what she wanted and what she was going to look around for, and they really didn't have any at the festival. It's like, really? Eh? But she loved it at the end, and it was really kind of cool and cute, and she smiled and everything. I was like, yes, score one for you guys. And their concert went off really well. The rest of the class was like, okay, we were going in to pretty much badmouth your ass, but you guys really rocked. They run up and like, I don't even know who the fuck those guys were. We see like this whole kind of like beauty pageant thing going on, this crazy ass fucking thing that had like a fusion of The Hobbit, fucking Romeo and Juliet. It was like the craziest mishmash kind of thing going on. Like, that's kind of cool, just having crazy ass shit going on. And we get towards the end of the season, and I really kind of like this because there's a couple episodes at the end where they kind of give it to tying up some loose ends, but yet setting things up for the next season where it's not really got a giant fucking cliffhanger. So, we get some information that Eri, she's doing good and everything, and they're deciding to have her live at UA. Like, Aizawa was going to have to deal with her because his quirk is the only one that can pretty much shut her down if shit gets crazy at the moment. And I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. And then she's protected. She's close to Mirio and to Midoriya. Works out pretty well. We'll have to see kind of what goes on with that, and then she can figure out and kind of acclimate to the real world because she's been a prisoner for so long, and she's only like 7 years old, man. Fuck. And then we kind of see some other kind of things. The Wildcat kind of group that had helped train them in the woods makes an appearance by, and Kota decides to kind of like say hello to Midoriya and everything, and he's kind of taking some stuff that Midoriya is and like wearing like the same kind of stuff that's going on. He's like, yeah, whatever. He's trying to play it off nonchalant. Midoriya is being that kind of cool dude. You can already kind of see him. You can see why he idolizes All Might, and then why he's gonna be a good hero that other people idolize, because he doesn't let it go to his head. He's like, that's pretty cool. You do you, kid. And we see that All For One is like, yeah, I'll give that one hero her quirk back if you allow me to move and shit. I'm like, that's a fucking trap. Fuck you, man. And we then get to see that they're leading up to this thing of the hero rankings. And we see that, of course, one of the ones that we'd seen, Ryokyu, the one that had been a part of the work agency that had fought against the Yakuza threat. She dropped down to 10. We get introduced to some other heroes in the top 10. Hawks was pretty cool. I was like, okay, what is this dude's kind of game? He's like, yeah, it's being like, I just kind of want all these heroes to take it, so that way I kind of like drop down. I don't really... Let's kind of see where this kind of goes. And he's number 2, and then we see Endeavor's like, hey, just watch what I do. I'm like, okay, there we go, Endeavor. We'll see how that kind of goes. And, of course, Hawks has been looking into, like, the Nomus and stuff like that because there's been odd things going on, and we kind of see more of his quirk. His quirk's really fucking weird. You think that it's like, oh, he can fly kind of like Angel from the X-Men. Yes. But he can also use, like, he can telekinetically control his feathers to, like, move shit. And you're like, this is kind of interesting, but he seemed kind of lazy. But it's kind of like a tactical laziness. He'll do what he needs to, and the thing is, he's not really that much of a powerhouse quirk hero. You see that as we're getting towards the end season finale, which is awesome. And they're doing this, the Toby villain's like, hey, let's kind of set this Nomu off. And it's like really different than all the other Nomu. Like, looks, I mean, granted, it looks similar, but it's got weird looking eyes. It's like, what the fuck's going on here? And then they're talking about the Nomu in this one place for dinner. It's like, and Endeavor's like, fuck you, man. I'm kind of done with this shit. But then, of course, that Nomu attacks. It's like, which one of you is strongest? Setting up, and then Endeavor's like doing his fight with it. It's like, holy shit. This was an epic fight with the season finale, and it really showcased Endeavor taking over for All Might as the number 1 hero. And I'm like, I'm like, that's not a bad side. It's just like, Endeavor, what the fuck is up with you? The best part about it is we got to see Todoroki's mother and two of his siblings talking together and getting a little bit more understanding of how they view Endeavor. His brother Natsu is like, screw Endeavor. What he did with us, everything. And he's got that view of him. But the mother is like, no, see these flowers? I only mentioned it once that they were my favorite. He's been here and everything. It's like, what? And of course, she's been getting letters from Todoroki, everything like that, showing it to the sister as well. And they're like, yeah, okay, whatever. But of course, their views on him kind of changes. He's fighting to protect the people. And the thing is, this motherfucker's taking a lot of damage and everything and can keep regenerating and is protecting its head specifically. And at first, I was like, I should really kind of capture this thing so that way we can study it, because it's the first kind of intelligent one that we found. And the thing is, it's trying to prove its strength and do everything with its quirks and all that. And the thing is, a building is pretty much getting destroyed. I'm like, Endeavor, but of course, Hawks is on the scene and he's able to pretty much keep everybody all safe as possible using his feathers to get everybody out of there. I'm like, good, because that building's fucking falling. Holy shit. And Endeavor is trying to use his powers efficiently, and we get a little bit more information. He was trying to solve his overheat problem. He essentially has a similar kind of problem to All Might. If he keeps using everything, his body starts to deteriorate. If he isn't careful, he's going to become useless at that point in the battle. That's pretty much why he was trying to marry Ice and Fire together. But that doesn't excuse how he's treated people. If he becomes better, that's a better kind of thing, but we've seen that it drastically affected his wife, his children. Todoroki's like, whatever. And of course, they're watching this on the TV, and Todoroki's like, shit. And of course, we get to a part in the battle where the Nomu is able to pretty much like severely injure him, taking out one of his eyes. But he's able to get back up, and Todoroki's like, fuck, my dad's dead, pretty much. Even though he's got that kind of adversarial relationship. But Hawks is able to kind of help him out, use his speed to like help speed him up, and shove Endeavor pretty much up into the sky where he's able to unleash everything he's got. And it was really kind of interesting to see what was going on the ground as the people were scrambling. They're like, where's All Might? Where's All Might? And of course, the one fan that he tried to be kind of more friendly towards, he's like, no, man, you're doing against your image. That's so totally uncool. He's like, no, he's fighting for us. He's working. Trust him, man. It's like, shit, yeah, he's got that. Seeing his other kids having, like, his daughters, like, listen, he's stubborn. He never gives up. Look at him right now. And then you can see the Natsu, his son Natsu, like, kind of reforming his opinion a little bit. Now, granted, that doesn't mean everything has to be forgiven, but you gotta understand the complete package of a person. Endeavor ended this heroically, pretty much taking out that Nomu on the ground, and is able to stand up with his fist raised high, signaling that, like, he is now the number one hero, and that there is a number one hero, and that it's okay, that we will shoulder this burden that All Might has left us. It's like, yeah, just make sure that you try and make amends for what you've done. And I'm really going to be interested to see his arc going forward, and how that affects Todoroki's arc. Those are going to be some pretty cool-ass characters to really get into, because Endeavor's nuanced, and then whatever's going to be happening with him is going to also affect Todoroki. It'll be interesting to see how they kind of go through with that. So the last bit we get is an interesting kind of thing that happens with Midoriya, because it ends, we get that fucking badass, awesomely animated, awesomely voice-acted thing of Endeavor's fight with the Nomu, and Hawk helping out, and him doing his kick-ass stuff. And then we get Midoriya. He's asleep, and then we see that he has this vision in his head. And we see him kind of weird-looking, kind of green up until his like eyes, and kind of like flashing and everything. And he sees all these other people. It's like, oh, these must be the people that have had One for All and everything. And then we see one for the original One for All user, and All for One, seeing what's going on there. And then, it's like, oh, okay, there's a little bit of tease of some information. Doesn't have to be a big giant kind of cliffhanger, but I like a tease rather than anything. It's like, oh, okay, instead of just leaving, And then we see that One For All is like, oh, you're the ninth user, and reaches out and touches Midoriya's hand, and then we see Midoriya wakes up. His window is broken, and his hand is glowing. It's like, what the fuck's going on there? What would this be able to do? Is he going to be able to do something with these other people? Or how are they linked with them? Because we've seen that kind of connection mainly during like the sports festival and all that, as he was able to fight through the psychic block. Could we be seeing that he would be able to utilize other quirks of the people that have used One For All before? That's kind of the interesting kind of things. Can he be able to kind of shuffle around and do some weird kind of things? Because this is a stockpiling quirk. And he is now the ninth user. That's going to make it a pretty big, powerful kind of thing. 9 times of that. Now, granted, of course, people, you'd get better as you pass it along and everything like that. But I don't think it would work completely hot potato style of like, all right, we've got 10 people here, and then you just start like passing it around. Boo, boo, boo. I don't think that's kind of how it works. No, that would be interesting if they would acknowledge that and be like, no, you can't do that. But we're getting slowly more information kind of teases and reveals, and I can't wait to see when that's kind of, hopefully it gets its own kind of devoted arc kind of thing where it really gets deep dive, we really get information, and it unlocks something new for Midoriya and for the rest of the group. So I'm like, yes, all right, I can't wait for season 5, and I don't care that it's going to take probably longer or whatnot. Just do the best that you can, and I can't wait to see it when it pops off. So those are my opinions on this season. Tell me what you guys think on the think in the comments below. If you liked it, if you didn't like it, if you agree with me, if you disagree with me. Also like and subscribe, and I hope you have a good day.